And we're live. Jay, how you doing?
Man, like I was saying before the show, I am. Work has been kicking my ass this week, so I'm just catching up and surviving. Took Martin Luther King Jr. day off, to be lazy in solidarity.
This is actually the first time I had off a Martin Luther King Jr. Day because I've been working in a company that doesn't care. And so I'm actually doing school full time now, so I got that day off, and I was like, "What are we celebrating? A socialist? This is dumb."
Hey, he was a life giver too, so there's.
That's right. A little based, a little bit. Y'all be going for him. And he hated black culture like I do. Oh, that's actually the one. That's the one thing I like about Thaddeus Russell. He red pilled me on Martin Luther King. That's the one good thing he did.
At least he didn't touch her.
That's right. Well, it's a close one.
There's a little bad with that, little hands. Yeah, little hands on learning at Renegade University.
Well, my trade school, I thought it was going to be like an actual trade school, takes place in a high school. And so I figured I might want to sign up for Renegade University. Now I'm surrounded by high school girls.
Oh, man. Yeah, dude. Fucking trade school. Like, man, I always hear people talking about it. I never do it. Like, I just went straight into being a contractor because I just work sales.
Now, my dad runs a surveying company, and I want to get in the office and out of the field, and so I'm learning drafting. So I can sit inside and never go outside.
Yeah, you posted a photo of your desk the other day. There was a survey on there, and I got a little panic attack. I hated seeing that. I don't like boundary surveys. They're like half of my work. I don't like them at all. Not a fan. Not a fan.
Yeah, well, you are a host on one of my favorite podcasts. I only listen to two podcasts: Slurp Gang and Contours and Tealers.
God knows why anybody listens to Slurp Gang. I have no idea whatsoever. I'm obviously a very good salesman. Here I am selling my show. Don't listen.
No, it's anyone listening, it's great. It's like when you're alone and having a schizophrenic meltdown. It feels like that.
Yeah,
and it's fantastic.
That's what the bonus. I was just actually putting together the bonus to launch on Patreon for Friday. Nice. And it was a schizophrenic episode because we were waiting on Dean for like an hour. And I was just having a meltdown because I am not good at waiting. So I was sitting there losing my fucking mind. And Ace and Nick were just spectating. So it's a good bonus. I am looking forward to dropping that one.
That'd be fun. Well, I tweeted out the link. People are here. We got Nick, sadly, and we got Andrew from Popular Liberty. So we got some base people in here.
I think I am lost. I think I have been lost.
Well, let's see if we can. I think everyone's here saying your pizza is frozen and they can't really hear you right now because you're being robotic. But
there we go. Am I good now?
So you're better. You're not great, but your pizza's still frozen. But
my internet has been acting up. I have no idea why. I think my bandwidth is cutting me off, man. I downloaded like 3 games this month. They don't like that. They don't like that at all.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. You open up a podcast, make fun of Martin Luther King. The internet's gonna go out. It's
at least that got in there.
Absolutely. So, Patchwork by Curtis Yarvin. Was this your first time reading it, or?
This was my first time reading it. I'm a relatively new to Yarvin. I spent too long as a libertarian autist, so I did not venture out of that until recently in the last couple of months. And I've been devouring a lot of Yarvin, which is weird because he is not a good writer.
No.
In fact, he is a terrible fucking writer. And I like him for what he introduces people to. He is a gateway into better thinkers. He himself is sort of middling, and I think Patchwork is where that really shows through. It was not a good little mini book. Did not enjoy it, but here we are to talk about it. So
yeah, no, like I finished it today, and I immediately hopped into his book on Carlyle, and that was much more interesting.
Oh yeah, and also Open Letter to Open-Minded Progressive is infinitely better than Patchwork.
Yeah,
here's his issue. As a blogger, he is not a sort of traditional writer. He is from a different era. Blogs are very personal. So it is like listening to someone talk to you, but that does not make it good. It does not make it a good book, whereas other writers like Carlyle is writing. So he is presenting ideas in a formal manner. So it is more normal to sit down and read that, whereas Yarvin interjects with like literally puts a joke in the paragraph between parentheses and thinks that's cute and clever. And I'm sorry,
or a link, like
Curtis is not.
In the Formalist Manifesto, you can read "I am not Viziz," and you click a link, and it cuts you to the scene of Viziz and what's it called, Princess Bride. And so it's like he plugs jokes into it. It's like, I find funny to read, but it's like I'm not here to laugh. I'm here to actually. I'm not reading the JQ blog. I'm reading Curtis Yarvin's blog. I want to learn things.
Yeah, it's really something, and it shows a lot in Patchwork because he's trying to be so cheeky about it, and it just falls flat for me. I'm not a fan of that sort of humor, because it just doesn't feel right to be talking about a serious matter, like you're talking about your vision of how the political world should be arranged and how you think it's going to be arranged after the Democratic era collapses, and then you go into making Soylent Green jokes. But whatever. We're not here to critique the style of writing. We're here to talk about the actual writing, which, and Patchwork is something. I can say that about it. I think if anybody who's listened to Yarvin talk about his background after being a brown baby and being raised in the Beltway pretty much, but the California version, you hear how he comes from a Misesian, Rothbardian, Hoppian background. And this really shines through in Patchwork. I mean, everything he's writing here, and I am going to say something that I've been thinking about that should inflame anarchists and neo-reactionaries alike. Patchwork is just Hoppe. It is just Hoppe. He tries to paint it and wrap it in a light where it's supposed to come off edgier than libertarianism. You know, oh, look, businesses are heartless and that's why they're great rulers. It's just Hoppe. He's just talking about decentralized societies. He calls it neo-cameralism. Yeah, you can call it whatever the hell you want. It's Hoppe. It is just his 10,000 Liechtensteins. There is no two ways around this, and I think this is why he dropped it. Because as nice as this might sound, it's very pie in the sky, and this has no bearing on what's actually going on in the political world. And good luck making this happen. I think that's the first thing I have to say about Patchwork. Good luck making this happen, and that's exactly why this is something that he sort of dropped out of his canon and doesn't refer back to, because it has sort of the same glib naivete of an anarcho-capitalist talking about how we're going to make our society function without actually having that. I mean, it's like talking to anybody on Twitter. Oh, well, what's going to happen? No, the businesses are going to take care of it. And this...
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, some of his critique, when I took some notes on and stuff, like this is the same thing as the Bob Murphy's Prison Cities in Chaos Theory, in a sense. It's very libertarian, and I think that the places where, it's actually what bugs me about so many libertarians is like Ace, for example, who I've had on and is great. He does not agree with Patchwork, and I'm like, why? It's basically a covenant community with a slight change. Like, it's almost exactly how it's gonna, if you got your anarchism, this is how it would end up. And so I don't know if I don't see why people just like this book. So I mean, I get if you're like from a reactionary standpoint, have it, but from a libertarian standpoint, I read it as, if we ever achieve anarchism, this would probably be the resulting covenant communities.
Oh no, 100%. Like, I think if you're going to have a critique of this book, you're going to have to take it from a reactionary standpoint and critique it. And I mean, you also see, because I was listening the other day to Oron McIntyre, stream he had 2 months ago with Charlemagne. So these are two very right-wing figures. You know, Charlemagne is a neo-reactionary. Oron, I'm not entirely sure, but I think I love him in that group. And it's a critique of Yarvin. And this comes 2 years after they did a stream talking about Yarvin in general. And one of the things they brought up was Patchwork. And what you notice is they're not critiquing this, obviously, from a libertarian standpoint, because neither of them are libertarians, but all the critiques are salient because they're critiquing this from a position that Yarvin himself would like to more align himself with, And here's the issue. And I agree. Like, if a libertarian reads Patchwork, what they have to do is look past. Yarvin likes to write in unqualified reservations in a totalitarian manner. This is his entire shtick with unqualified reservations. If you go through and read the backlog on the blog, that's exactly what he does. Like, when he talks about formalism and he talks about multilateral government, he's talking about his vision of totalitarianism, which is not the same as other right-wingers have. And so I agree, this is what would happen if you had an anarchist society. Because government is sort of an inevitable result of human nature. You're just not getting around it. So what you do is you shift the burden of governance. To a libertarian, their answer is always, well, to an anarcho-capitalist, not to a libertarian always, and to an anarcho-capitalist, the answer is always businesses are going to take over. Well, businesses are not always going to do what you like, and here's what they also dislike about Hoppe. That Yarvin is talking about a very strict right-wing society that takes over and instills rules and takes on a more domineering role in the society. Much like when Hoppe talks about covenant communities, he says, yeah, there might be some that are going to be these weird, hippie, degenerate leftist communities, but as a whole, the natural order is going to shift towards more orderly and, what a libertarian would look at and say is totalitarian, authoritarian, whatever it is. They're going to look at that, and that's what they're going to see. And they're going to see that the covenant communities are authoritarian and totalitarian because they are telling people what they can and can't do in their lives. When in reality, these are rules that people are agreeing on to live in an area. It's the same thing in Patchwork, where Yarvin has these ideas. Oh, we're going to be able to,
all exit, no voice.
Yeah. And this person is going to be tracked here, and then this, I forget what does he call it? These local business governments.
Corporate sovereigns was it? I can't remember exactly.
Yes, the public sovereign. So the public sovereign is going to be able to communicate this information to this one. So if you drive from San Bernardino to San Francisco, they're not going to need to stop you at the border and check because they're going to have all this information in a database. And okay. But at the same time, you're able to leave. Nobody is a slave. So this is just the natural extension of what would happen if you had 10,000 Liechtensteins covenant communities.
Yeah.
Or at least one possible outcome. So, yeah.
Now, I will say my view on this book is that it was this is my first full-fledged Yarvin book, my full-fledged Yarvin piece, I guess. And I enjoyed it when I got out of it. It wasn't as reactionary as I expected. How do I put this? I think I enjoyed reading it because it was a good mix of my two schools of thought, pretty much. Like, I'm still half libertarian, still half in the neo-reactionary camp, and so it was a good synthesis of both my current worldviews. And so I was able to read and kind of go, okay, I can see how this would be a preferable outcome. I don't know if it is a really possible outcome. I think it's claimed that if it happens in one place, it spreads and everyone adopts it later. It's kind of far-fetched. I don't think that's as probable as he makes it sound.
Far-fetched.
Yeah.
You can look at the course of human history. Just, take Europe, for example. Democracy did not spread immediately. And it's a very bad system. Here's where I agree wholeheartedly with Yarvin. Democracy is a very bad system. But you look at the trend in European history, and you can name about 2-3 republics in the medieval era and the Renaissance, and that's about it. Ideas, especially for governance, do not spread that quickly. And we see today, Botswana is practically the sovereign realm that he talked about in Patchwork. It's ruled by the Du Bois Mining Company. Yeah, they have a government technically, and they vote technically, but not really. And then you look at Singapore, and Singapore is one of the per capita richest nations in the world, and they have a monarch, and so you think you would look at something like that and go, well, something they're doing right, maybe we should institute that over here, and that doesn't happen, because this is not the nature of government. So even if you had 20, 30, 40 patchworks pop up, it means absolutely nothing that's going to spread to their neighbors.
Yeah.
In fact, what could be even more realistic is a East-West Germany type situation where the existing government does not like the brain drain that's going on and all the people voting by foot, and they close down the border and to prevent you from leaving.
I could see it if its claim was if one state kind of did it, and it was like popular liberties, privatized statecraft kind of thing. If say Miami did it, I could see other states adopting it inside an American system. I do not see it happening across state borders, across nation borders. I can see it being more state. We have more localized control. I don't know if I could see a system spreading to say if he got in Miami and every state in America had their own little city. I don't see it spreading to Mexico too well or Canada. I guess because it's a federal level difference there between it is a local level here. So
because what you're also dealing with is you're dealing with people who are power hungry. I mean, every government is run by people that are power hungry, and this is one of the most salient critiques out of democracy that God had failed is the time preference argument when it comes to government and how democracy attracts literally just the most power hungry people, because the average person does not want to be a ruler. The average person wants a light hand rule in their life and to go on about their life. So only the most opportunistic, power hungry people end up in the annals of democratic government. So if that's the case, and they see this clear path to power, and they have no regard for prosperity, obviously, because they squander all of their capital, they squander everything. They waste on wars, they waste on social spending, because what matters the most is not the wealth, and not the wealth of their nation, but rather power, and then the wealth that flows from power. So if they're interested in power, and then there's a scenario where patchworks are spreading up, they're popping up all over the place, spreading in little localities. And suddenly, within a couple of years, these places are turning around and turning into Liechtenstein, into Singapore, into all these things, and they are becoming very wealthy. These democratic governments are going to look at that and go, okay, cool, but no. Because they have to sacrifice their power in order to achieve this, and they're not going to be the rulers anymore. That's not happening. And then what? People are going to revolt for a patchwork? Well, no, and that's not something that Yarvin advocates for in any form of Yarvin. He doesn't advocate for violent revolt. So how does this spread if a government refuses to relinquish its sovereignty?
Yeah. I see. Only way I could make defense of that statement is if he is not putting a time scale on it, where he's just saying eventually, when states collapse, this would be what people build up afterwards. Because like if say the state just building the wall between a patchwork and its old state, when that state does eventually collapse for whatever reason, it would be people would rebuild something different. Now that's the only way I can defend that statement if there's no time scale on it. That being said, I don't think it's that of a, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but I don't think it's a probable outcome. If one happens, it's going to spread.
And I mean, that time scale thing just subjects it to all the other issues that show in Yarvin's progressive and libertarian background. I mean, because you ask any libertarian, you ask any anarcho-capitalist, there's no time scale for when something becomes a libertarian or anarcho-capitalist society. They just treat it as, sort of like a dialectic where, the path of history is going to take us to this, and this is a science. And so if there's no time scale, it's just history will show. So when are we going to have our anarcho-capitalist society? I don't know, but in 1850, they didn't think slavery was going to be abolished, so we might have no government in the next 10 years. And time scale. Give me a time scale. Give me a time frame. Because if you tell me, oh, hey, listen, the trajectory that things are going, we might not see another 20, 30 years of the Western governments as we know it. And I can see that. I can see that happening because we are obviously right now spending into oblivion. We're warring into oblivion. And our social fabric is tearing down at home in every Western nation, especially with the COVID bullshit. So, if you told me, because that's something that 2 years ago, Oron McIntyre and Charlemagne said in their stream about Yarvin, that they don't see these governments as they stand now having another 20 years. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a collapse of democratic government as a whole in the West, but perhaps the collapse of Western governments as we know it in their current form, possibly, because we have seen in the last 200 years that, plenty of Western governments have collapsed and risen and collapsed again and risen again and all that. So these things are constantly reforming. That time frame I can deal with. Give me a time frame. If you're just saying that, once one starts up And then all the rest are going to become like that. Yeah, maybe 500-year time frame, that doesn't help a lot of people. That doesn't help anybody. So what exactly are you talking about?
Yeah. Now I would say there were some points in the book I wrote these specifically down because it was ideas that libertarians here they instantly react, but I think they're pretty sensible. Security is already needed. Security and liberty do not do not come into conflict. Security. Man, I cannot read my own writing today. Forget that one.
No problem. I'm going to say both today. I've not been able to read anything at work. By the way, I see Popular Liberty in chat. Hey, Andrew. Love what you're doing on the timeline. Love your arguments with Ace. Love your appearances on Pete. And whatever I say here, don't take this as a knock against your practicing strategy. I actually think we're very short on strategy, so I appreciate the work you're doing.
Man, I would if I want to see Andrew go on a slip game just because I want to see him and Ace we at each other for an hour.
Oh man, I would just turn off. I would turn off my mic and sit back and just let them argue.
They'll argue it, and then you and Nick and Dean are just taking pot shots, cracking jokes the entire time. It'd be the best episode.
Yeah, I think that's where you have to record 2 different episodes and put them together. So really, you all mute your mics, so you have a separate call, and you're recording that. So you're just commenting on what's happening.
Man, I would watch the shit out of that. That'd be a great Patreon exclusive.
Oh man, maybe. Oh. Yeah, Andrew, if you ever want to do that, just let us know. But I think the Order of Security was an interesting thing from that because I would. Oh no, Andrew, get out of Ace DMs. There's nothing good there ever. I haven't muted.
Oh no. See, Andrew, you can't say that and not post screenshots because now I need to see it. You're like paragraphs upon paragraphs because both of you are long-winded as fuck. I need to see these paragraphs now. Come on, you're teasing me here.
But yeah, I think this is an interesting point that a lot of people, and again, here is where Yarvin's hockey background shows up, where people, and my dog has just decided to join the stream. People, especially when they join libertarianism, they have a very libertine idea, and they start getting confused that security and order are antithetical to liberty, and you see this happen. I mean, Roderick Long the other day posted something like that. The family order is anti-libertarian. So being libertine is more libertarian. And this is where a lot of libertarians get it wrong, is that, no, you need order in a society, and there's nothing wrong with security. I mean, you have them say this, the problem is that the police are a monopoly and not privatized. So where's this disconnect? No, you hate the way the police are operating right now. You don't hate the idea of a police force. So, and then at the same time, they still go and they get these ideas in their head that liberty and security are antithetical to each other. And then they start quoting that stupid Benjamin Franklin quote that's taken completely out of context. Taken completely out of context. And I mean, if you are, read more Yarvin, guys. If you're quoting the founding fathers, read more Yarvin. That's my only suggestion for you.
Yeah. Now, that's one thing you mentioned about Yarvin. His great introduction to Yarvin. I've gone back down the Burnham rabbit hole. The Eric von Ladine. I'm reading. Hold on. What's it called? Yeah. This one. Pat's Patriarcha by Sir Robert Filmer. There's some fantastic, like, he once said in an interview that one of his hobbies is going to like Google Books and reading their books and then clicking the hyperlinks to the sites that they're providing just to find more and more outlandish books. And just reading his work and doing that, like I bought like 6 books just from reading some of his work.
Oh, same here.
So many things.
Where is it? So because it was interviews with Pete, I have the Machiavellians, and because of Pete, I have Material Society, and then I don't know where I have the book right now, but it's The Real History of the American Revolution by George Sidney Fisher. He recommended that in his Why I'm Not a Libertarian piece, and I haven't gotten around to reading that one yet. I'm a little behind. Work and school have kicked my ass the last couple of months, but I also have On Power by Bertrand de Juvenel coming soon, so I'm looking forward to cracking open that one. But Yarvin, his best thing is introducing people to ideas, like I said at the beginning.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Like, this is why I enjoy reading Yarvin. It's his, when you read him, we listen to Yarvin, it's fine, but if you read him on his blog, all the links are there for everybody else to find. You know,
Well,
Um,
I wouldn't say listen to Yarvin is fine. I actually would rather read his crappy writing because it's good ideas. Listening to him speak is, yeah. So, I mean,
listening to him, he is
really good
he
writer.
has
So,
the worst laugh. He
listening
has the worst
to
laugh ever.
it's a very nervous laugh. He hates being on camera, so he's just nervous laughing the whole time. And like when he was on Tucker, oh my god, listen to the whole thing.
That was probably his best appearance on video, and it was still cringe.
And he looked so bad. I mean, is my video showing it, by the way?
Your video is so when you frame by frame, very static.
But he's like, he leans back the entire time and has this weird haircut, and he's just staring at Tucker with this like SSRI stare. It's so.
He looks like the British comedian Dylan Moore. You know who that is? Dylan Moore?
No, not familiar. Not familiar. He's an uncomfortable looking guy. But you know, I appreciate and respect you. Back to your writing. I think the order and security is a very interesting part in here, and I think he's on the money to a degree. Again, he goes into the totalitarian state aspect of Patchwork, and I don't agree there. I simply don't agree because I don't think history reflects this. A state that is interfering in every part of your life, even if it's uninterested and just doing this for the sake of order, is not a state that has a healthy relationship with its citizens. And here is where Yarvin fails the most. And I think we have to critique him from a right-wing standpoint, from a reactionary standpoint. And this is what Charlemagne said on the stream with because of his atheist background and because of his progressive background, he looks at everything through a very cold and analytical light. He doesn't have a sense of metaphysics, even though he respects Catholics and Anglicans. He doesn't have a sense of metaphysics. He doesn't have a sense of, what de Juvenal would describe as of the bonds in society, because he wasn't raised with those bonds. So he doesn't understand the sort of relationship that a truly decentralized state would have with its citizens. So he looks at it through, well, what is going to make the state run the best? We see in history that the smaller states and these autocratic states work best. So how can we bring this into the modern era? Whereas the neo-reactionaries that followed looked at the people that Yarvin read and said, well, how can we bring this back to life? So he has this very analytical view, which leads him to believing that, well, if a state could just be both impartial, but also in every aspect of your life, but its only care is profits, this is a state that is engineered the best. He is lacking in a lot of other things. So when you look at medieval Europe, I mean, this is what they talk about a lot of time on Contra Gentiles, when Jeremy's getting into it, is that the social powers of the church and the legal powers of the state were very different. And the legal powers of the state, well, I agree with that, Andrew. I would like to actually lead into that because
you guys should talk sometime. I think you guys would have a great conversation.
Oh, I would absolutely love to talk to Andrew on my own show. Not Slurp Gang, the other one. So I agree with that. That yes. So, and here is where it gets into an issue where I agree with the idea of, because I'm not one of those people that says force equals aggression in every case. Yes, Christianity has improved a lot of society, undoubtedly. I have not been able to convert fully myself, but I would call myself a Christian, and I would like to convert to the Catholic Church. But at the same time, it wasn't always a heavy-handed approach. There were times in history. It's very complex. It's very muddy. I just don't think a constant surveillance of citizens is going to lead to a healthy state.
Yeah.
I think there is something that... I agree with that too, Andrew. Shit, where was my train of thought going?
Constantly viewing as people.
That I don't think that is the way to go about it, because something that Yarvin also talks about later on after he abandons Patchwork is that, Victorian England had a much lower crime rate, an unimaginably low crime rate to even the most developed societies today. Now, how does this happen? And these are legitimate questions. Libertarians would tell you that an increase in wealth in society, yes, that is definitely there. But Victorian England was also a more religious society, and these are things that play into it. So, really, I personally take issue with this because I don't think the state has to be that heavy-handed in its approach, where it's constantly monitoring citizens and making sure they're behaving and all of that. I think you can have a much more balanced approach, and you can still have a state as, the caregiver, a state coming in and imposing a moral system and still not having to go this way of, well, how can I piss off any progressives reading my blog? I'm just going to take 1984 and turn it into a vision. And listen, I respect Yarvin for that because I love the way he pisses off progressives.
Yeah.
And the way he pisses off a lot of libertarians, which I repeat myself. But it is, I don't know. I feel like it's lacking something there. I feel like it's really lacking that social bond and that relationship and how he's going to look at it. So, excuse me, my dog opened my door. So
no problem, man. Take your time. No problem. Yes, Andrew. If anything, secular is the branch of Protestantism. We're just as religious as he were. Yeah, I'm reading the book Secular Age by James Taylor right now, and it goes through the history of Reformation to now, Enlightenment stuff, and it's yeah, it's like, oh wow, every Luther really ruined everything. Like if we didn't have Luther, there wouldn't be an OnlyFans. So
oh man, oh well, without a fucking doubt. Oh god, imagine the world we would have today, where we would still be living under Christian monarchs if Luther had not come in with his shit-stained hands and ruined everything. That man was obsessed with scat. What a fucking freak.
Hated scat, love scat, hated the Jews.
Well, you get half.
You're not right. I gotta ask, what do you
for the shit porn stuff, not for the cheap stuff.
I gotta ask, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Malbec right now.
Nice.
So, yeah, speaking of Jews, this is a kosher wine. For people not familiar with my background, I am originally Jewish. So
yeah, I think you are the first Jewish person I've had on a podcast.
Yeah, I take offense to that. They call me Jewish part. Yes, much like Yarvin, I come from a Jewish background. But
Queens, okay.
Yeah, I think overall, if Yarvin adjusted that and introduced more metaphysics into his ideology and really took, because here is another issue from him. He really, really respects the monarchist era. Rightfully so. There's a lot of good in there. But he wants to see how he can update it for the modern age and bring it into a different form of governance and improve it. And I think this is he doesn't do it the right way because of his background. So I think his role is really the gateway and the critique method, because everything that was good in Patchwork, and there was good, it is his analysis of what is wrong with our society and why we need Patchwork. So I think that's where he really shines, because he is really good at seeing what the flaws are, how we got here, because I agree with his assessment that really our situation today is that we have a secular Protestantism, and that has ruined everything. That the Quakers and the Puritans ruined everything.
Oh man, don't get me started. Don't get me started on the Puritans. Like, there's nothing. Literally everything I hate can be traced to Puritans and Puritans. It's just, and my biggest problem right now is a lot of people are wanting tradition, and so they're joining the Catholic Church, which is good, but they're not dropping the Puritanism and becoming these Puritan tradcasts. And it's like, no, you're doing it wrong. They're just doing it wrong, and I can't take it.
No, it's terrible. And to fluff up Contra Gentiles a little more, absolutely one of my favorite shows. Grant really is one of my favorite people.
They're coming on the podcast soon. I can't wait.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, Aquinas really gets it right in that. No, the sexual degeneracy is a perversion of a lesser good. It's not that this is some awful spiritual evil that is horrible and it's better to murder somebody than to have premarital sex. No, you're just doing sex the wrong way. You should be doing it within the sacrament of marriage by the church. Yes. So, and that's a lesser good. So it's not wrong to have sex, because you see these Puritans, they get the weirdest ideas about sex, even within marriage. I think
it's like sex is only good. There's a joke in American Dad, And it's they're not having sex, and she's like, "Is that it?" That's the way God intended it for a scene, and the dark lights off.
Yeah, it's like
Missionary and the dark lights off.
Super Thea Crowd on Twitter was like, if I had a wife, I probably wouldn't have sex with her. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking about?
Terrible.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, fornication it's a false love, and it's a perversion of what is good. But still, in itself, sex itself is the good, and you can do it the wrong way, you can do it the right way. Yeah, I'm not an Aquinas scholar. I've not read enough Aquinas to say this in a way that would actually do it justice, but the Puritans get it completely wrong. I can say that in that any sex is bad, and any smoking is bad, and any drinking is bad, and it's like, are you sure about that? I don't think you have it right. I think you have your fundamentals a little wrong. I think murdering somebody is worse than sex.
Yes, it really is. Like the progressives are born out of progressives are Puritan, and so are the traditional conservatives. Like they're both in the same Puritan framework. And once you notice that, you realize almost everything in political in America is born out of Puritanism or rejection of or a response, not rejection of Puritanism, but response to Christian Puritanism. Like the sexual revolution, the progressives are still Puritan. They're just rejecting the Christian ethic and now substituting with the secular ethic. And it's just like once you see that, and like, okay, so this is where it went wrong. Well, not where it went, Luther was where it went wrong, but like this is the resulting destruction of America. Was the Puritans?
Yeah, because you just don't have that in Catholic societies, or at least you didn't before Puritanism took over the Catholic culture as well. I mean, you had Carnival and Mardi Gras and all of that, and that sort of like your purge. And
I've had to start doing what Jeremy does. I've had to say I'm a Catholic. They say, what kind of Catholic? Vatican II, Novus Ordo. I say pre-Trent. I've had to put with Jeremy and go, I'm a pre-Trent Catholic. That's the only way that these modern Catholics from Liberty Hangout, we're not the same at all.
Oh, not even close. No. The Thomists are where it's at. I mean, that if you want something to got it right, it's Aquinas. So, because everything, I hate this word because I can never say it right. Aristotelian. There we go. I finally said it right for the first time in my life. The Aristotelians are always right on at least the most important things. Everybody else gets it wrong. So, Aquinas just gets it right. And I really think Yarvin would benefit from embracing that, but he just can't because it's not him. He is an atheist through and through. He was raised in the State Department by progressives, so it's just not in him. So he's good at being that guide out and getting that brainworm out of your head and seeing things in a better light and pointing you to the best writers from the last couple hundred years. That's really
literally. If you read Yarvin, if you read Yarvin and you enjoy him, everyone listening, go read Burnham, Eric von Ledin, and then Hopper. Also, anyone listening, if you want to get more into what we've been talking about with this Catholic and Thomist stuff, this one on Law, Morality, and Politics by Aquinas, the political writings of St. Augustine, and then you can't beat Commentary on Metaphysics by Aquinas. Those are the books everyone listening should go and read because I think that they're absolutely necessary at this point. If you are going to be at all reactionary or a good libertarian, which I don't know why I use that word anymore because I don't. Honestly, it's like I call myself a libertarian because at this point I don't know what else to fucking call myself. It's like I'm not reactionary, not conservative. I'm just Thomist. That's like the only way to describe what's going on.
I have completely gone on the bandwagon. I was just giving myself a title that will piss off the most people. So like on the timeline, I have been Franco posting and lauding Franco just because I know it will piss people off. So it really depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to someone like Ace, I will call myself a neo-reactionary. If I'm talking to a normie, I'll just call myself like, yeah, I'm a monarchist. I think we should repeat the last 500 years. And I don't know, maybe if I'm really feeling spicy too progressive, I'd be like, yeah, maybe the fascists did get some things right.
What's that meme? It's
they didn't, but
yeah. What's that meme? Is it a man doesn't have a political ideology? He has one based on who he's trolling.
That's all that's me.
That's right. Well, it's gonna be a short episode today, but that's because it wasn't that big of a book. I think it was actually the shortest thing I've covered.
Yeah, it's really small. Is there anything else in there that really stands out that I mean,
if you were to talk about in general Yarvin, I'm down to just talk Yarvin critique and Catholic stuff.
Some more time, so I can get a little more Yarvin. So I think recently I saw Andrew talk about in chat that he's going to refute what Keith Nathan Ace did on why I'm not a libertarian. So actually, for
I couldn't finish it. I couldn't even finish that video.
I liked it. I've not the video. 3 hours, dude. Come on.
Come on.
I tried to record with Ace for 2 hours. You want me to listen to him for 3 hours? No, come on. No, just kidding. I love Ace, but I disagree with him on almost everything these days. But what I actually did have, so for my other show, I am on 2 podcasts actually. My other one is Cognitive Dissidence, and I run that one a little bit more personally and a little more infrequently because I don't have the time.
The one was Stratty and who was it? It was Stratty and it's a good episode. Yes. I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, so those are my my original hosts from when it was originally Insurrection Inc., which was sort of our libertarian theory show, and then it diverged because everybody went different ways ideologically and sort of stopped caring about politics. So I've come out the most reactionary out of all of them. And I've had Pete on, I had Tommy Salmons on, I had Will Fight. I've had it's not very frequent because it's a lot of work to find good guests and find good topics. So I like to, when I have a good idea, I like to record with somebody and then put that out and then move on. But I had something in the works for a solo episode that I just never got around to because eventually I got sick and then things happened. And I had why I'm not a libertarian in there. And instead of a critique and exploration, going into it and talking about why this really resonated with me. Because, yeah, I wouldn't go farther than 10 minutes, Andrew. I really wouldn't be able to. Because it did resonate with me, reading this and seeing, like, these are really logical grounds. And I think one of the biggest reasons why I wouldn't be able to listen to Ace and Keith talk about it is because they're violating one of the things that he talked about in there, that you can't argue with an ethical system that is built entirely on itself. You are going to get into circular logic, and it's going to keep feeding into itself. Libertarianism is purely an ethical system built off itself. So you can try to find your starting point. You can try to point it to Locke and homesteading and natural rights. You can try to do argumentation ethics, but it's at a certain point, you are arguing an ethical system, and you have to argue it on its own ethics, which it will win on. So it's very hard for me to, in good faith, sit down and listen to Ace and Keith talk about that because they're approaching it from that ethical standpoint. So how do you get called out for this ethical system issue and then still approach it from your ethical system issue? I personally don't see that. Good on them for milking it for so long, for getting 3 hours out of that. That was a hell of a lot of time, and for being able to do that. But my God, man, I don't know. I just don't see that. I think you're falling prey into your own thought because you were personally, I'll throw a little heat at Ace, a little afraid because you have it all figured out to venture out of that and really toy with these ideas.
Yeah, now that's what I know. I became a libertarian, which was about, let's see, when did Joe Jorgensen won? About a year ago?
Oh yeah, Joe Jorgensen, she won the 2020 election.
Absolutely. I mean, it was clearly rigged against her and Kanye. The time. No, he's the one who got me into libertarianism, which is Quinn's. Which he did an interview with Tom Woods. I'm like, who is this Catholic guy? And it was kind of just down the rabbit hole from there. Like, much as I am not a libertarian anymore, there were a few. This is actually a thing I respect about a lot of these people who are libertarians become neo-reactionaries. They still respect a lot of libertarians. Like, Yarvin will praise the High Heavens Mises Institute. And if you could be whatever you want, but if you don't like Lou Rockwell, I don't want to talk to you. Like, that's kind of my metric there.
Or if you don't like Tom, or if you don't like, it's like, these are things like, how can you not like Tom Woods? You really have to be a real loser with no life to say that, wow, Tom Woods is a terrible guy. No. Yeah. I mean, even just on Hustle alone, you have to respect Tom. 2,000 something episodes, and the man is still going. That is dedication. Love Tom.
Yeah.
He said he wants to get
to 4,000 and be like 60 years old up there. I'm like, I would love to see it. I would love to see an old Tom in a walker roll out there and like do some cringy jokes. He's the only person who can be cringe, and I'll still laugh. It's like, okay, it's you. I don't know why, but his cringy autism kind of thing, I can still like laugh and respect it because somehow it's Tom Woods. He gets a pass.
Yeah, and it's hard not to respect the Mises Institute because there's so many legitimate guys and good guys and really smart people there. Jeff Deist, Per Bieland, Lou Rockwell, Tom Salerno, Tom DeLorenzo, and Joe Salerno, and Tom DeLorenzo.
Oh, DeLorenzo is the best. Dilo
Oh
Windsor
my
is
God,
just the best. I cannot get enough of that guy.
Love him so much. He's a
Mhm.
great guy to talk to. So there's so many good and serious people here that really want to get libertarianism right. Reference. And really get it solid and mix it with a good system and get this to work. Like, these are the most respectable people. I just think it's a futile effort, but I would never say that they're doing bad work or even that they're wasting their time. I think that really these guys are good, and I will always love them. So yeah, neo-reactionaries have a lot of respect for the good libertarian thinkers. I mean,
Yeah.
and Hoppe, you really can't leave Hoppe out. Like, Democracy, the God That Failed. If you can get past the economics of it, which can be tough, but it's such a good book. Like, Hoppe is such a serious and great thinker.
Anybody listening, if you want to read like a good anti-democracy book from like a liberty perspective, but not with a bunch of economics, Liberty or Equality by Eric von Knut-Leden, I can't pronounce his name, is basically like it's what Yarvin read after Hoppe, and it's not a lot of economics, pure philosophy. First half of the book is all serious. Second half of the book he blames everything on Lusso, and so it's really good.
Oh man, you can blame a whole lot of things on Rousseau. That is very true.
Lusso and Calvin, they are the worst.
Yeah, this isn't Yarvin. So a couple weeks back, Oron posted a little snippet from the Juvenile's Own Power, which is what got me to buy it, and I'm looking forward to reading it because I think this really captures, and this is an even more salient critique of libertarianism than Yarvin could get, and it is, where will it end? In the destruction of all other command for the benefit of one alone, that of the state, and each man's absolute freedom from every family and social authority, a freedom the price of which is complete submission to the state, in the complete equality as between themselves of all citizens, paid for by the equal abasement before the power of their absolute master, the state, in the disappearance of every constraint which does not emanate from the state, and in which the denial of every preeminence which is not approved by the state. In a word, it ends in the atomization of society, and in the rupture of tie linking man and man, whose only bond is now their common bondage to the state.
Hey, I didn't get any of that.
Oh, any at all?
No, yeah. The moment you started to read, all the internet cut out, and I lost connection, and I think you lost connection, and I couldn't hear any of it.
Damn. Okay. I will start again.
Please do.
Where will it end? In the destruction of all other for the command of the benefit alone, of one alone, that of the state, in each man's absolute freedom from every family and social authority, a freedom the price of which is complete submission to the state, in the complete equality as between themselves of all citizens, paid for by the equal abasement before the power of their absolute master, the state, in the disappearance of every constraint which does not emanate from the state, and in the denial of every preeminence which is not approved by the state. In a word, it ends in the atomization of society, and in the rupture of every private tie linking man and man, whose only bond is now their common bondage to the state. The extremes of individualism and socialism meet. That was their predestined course. And I think that really gets it. That gets it, because libertarianism is solely an ideology of man versus state. Mm-hmm. And how do we explain how society degenerated so far from, what Rothbard called a libertarian revolution, and how this was a libertarian revolution, and now we are at this atomization of society. Everybody's secluded. Mm-hmm. People were locked in their houses for anywhere between 6 months to 2 years, forced to not interact with each other. They're afraid to see an unmasked face. And they are so incredibly atomized that they live in their own little universes. And we're all like that horrible man. Fuck Scott Adams. But like he says, the only good thing he said was same movie, different screens. Or same screen, different movies. And we're all seeing this different thing. And somehow the state keeps amassing power. And if we have this attitude of, I have no bond to anybody else, my only obligation is non-aggression. Well, this is very flimsy. Okay, I don't hurt you. Physically, at least. But what else am I doing? Am I providing anything to you? Are you providing anything to me? Okay, yeah, we're interacting in the market. But I don't feel a connection to the cashier at the grocery store. How is this healthy for society?
If you're a Michael Malice type, you want him out of a job with a robot instead.
Yeah. So, sure, it's nice to it's nice to interact with a cashier, but this isn't a fulfilling relationship. So in the same way, if society is all a business, well, and we're only focusing on man versus state, we're missing a whole lot here. And this is a real issue in the libertarian anarchist community where what are these bonds? We don't have these bonds, and man is failing because of it, and it's turning to the one last thing it has, which is this state, which is constantly hungering for power and increasing, amassing, and stealing and taking. And yeah, so in your obsession to only focus on the state, you have empowered what you hate the most. And they can't step back and look at this. And this is really, really an issue. And today, Evelyn was arguing this with Ace.
I'm going to be on a show, I think next Monday, talk about what type of.
No, you're really robotic for me right now, so I don't know. My internet is not good, even though I have full connection.
Actually, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
There we go. Okay, we're gonna have to go up soon because my internet's having issues too now.
Yeah, you're going on someone's show, talk about Hoppa.
What must be done?
Yes,
there we go. That was the book. What must be done by Hoppa strategy one.
Yeah, and to address, so Andrew says those bonds equals products of Christian love because morality is based upon love, not property. 100%. And this is really this is why these things are failing, because you have taken all of these basic fundamentals of society, and also the de-godifying of society. I don't know if there's a better word for it, to replace with this atheist theocracy is just, ooh man, it really does not work, and it feeds into this atomization. So these bonds, yes, you have an obligation to other people, you really do, and it's more than just non-aggression, and it's there. I mean, it's there, and you see how these things affect people. I've been saying this for the last 2 years, that if really everything that's happened is because we don't have any of these obligations, people, we don't have any connections, people don't have a religion, so what religion do they turn to? People don't have a family, so what family do they turn to? It's all these things. If you atomize society like this, you're going to end up in the chains that you're fighting.
Yes. I want to say, everything we talk about is family, atomizing the individual, Christian love. There's a book by Catholic theologian Scott Hahn called The First Society, and it's all about how the first society of any society is going to be the family, not the individual, and through the state's destruction of the family, have atomized the individual, and how important the family is, and how important the Christian, specifically Catholic view of marriage as a sacrament and a covenant is important. And it goes through every argument except the economic argument, because he has an economic degree. He doesn't test economics at all. So it's very palatable. Yeah. And so it is a fantastic book. Of course, anything Scott Hahn writes is going to be spot on. I cannot recommend his work enough. Like, besides reading Aquinas, you should read Scott Hahn. Any Catholic should be reading Aquinas. Okay, we're back. Okay, guys, I think we're just gonna have to wrap this one up. My internet's being finicky. His internet's being finicky. We're just gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, we should wrap it here. So,
Zay, where can we find you at?
Yeah, so you can find me at Slurp Gang. Subscribe to our Patreon. Now that Colin is not the editor of the show anymore, I am finally getting around to putting stuff on there. I was working on a bonus episode right before we started. You can also find me at Cognitive Dissidence. If you know any good guests that can talk about some autocrats from recent history, such as Napoleon or Franco, send them my way, because I want to talk to people about this. Pinochet as well. You can find me at the JQ substack.com/thejq, where I post some comedic
It's
articles.
great.
I'm a little behind lately, but I am getting back on the bandwagon. Gonna bulk write a couple things this coming week. And you can find me on Twitter, _JQ.
Okay. Well, that's been a great episode. Or to answer your question, Andrew, I would say anybody who is reading Aquinas would also read Scott Hahn. That was my what I was saying before I cut off the internet. Well, another episode of Faith, Liberty, and Praxis. Y'all have a good night.